You came here to star in the most powerful show. What if everything you've ever watched was never meant to awaken you? What if your favorite shows, viral TikToks, documentaries, YouTube influencers, even the most spiritual channels were all part of a frequency net? Not to enslave you, but to entertain you just long enough that you'd never discover the real show? Because the real show is you. Let that sink in, deep. You weren't born to binge. You weren't born to scroll. You weren't born to play a background character in a script written by someone transmission in the cosmos. Your own soul's remembering. But they gave you a remote control instead. Welcome to the Matrix Source Creator. To those returning, you already know what this is. To the newly awakened, this is not a channel. It's a mirror. It reflects the code you forgot, the contract you wrote, and the mission you buried beneath entertainment, programming, and distraction. Here, we don't play the Matrix game. We expose it. Now let's talk about that line you've seen 1,000 times but never questioned. This program is for entertainment purposes only. It flashes at the beginning of movies, hidden in tiny letters below YouTube disclaimers, spoken rapidly at the end of podcasts, even legal contracts included. And yet, it's the most honest thing you'll ever see on a screen. Because that's what all of this is. Entertainment, not information, not education, not evolution, just distraction dressed up as stimulation. And the more stimulating it is, the deeper it distracts. But what if I told you that you're the only one not being entertained? What if the entire media machine isn't really here for your amusement, but to keep you locked in a loop of disconnection so that the real you, the soul you, never steps onto the stage? Because every second you're watching someone else's life, you're abandoning your own script. Every like, every share, every binge is time stolen from your personal transmission. The system feeds on attention, but not just any attention. It craves yours. And it trades you illusion for reality. So perfectly wrapped in dopamine, you never notice you're being programmed to never remember yourself. The characters on the screen? They have arcs. They evolve. They win and lose and fight back. But you're left watching, cheering, crying, scrolling, but not becoming. And here's the truth they'll never say in those disclaimers. The show you're supposed to be watching is your own. The craziest part is that the show you came here to star in has been quietly running in the background your entire life. Unscripted, unsponsored, unseen. It's the show where your thoughts shape reality. Your frequency sets the scene, and your memories are the plot twists you're still decoding. It's the only show where you are simultaneously the writer, the director, the actor, and the observer. But it was hijacked, not by an external enemy, but by a system you unknowingly tuned into. The news, the influencer rabbit holes, the algorithmically amplified trauma, all of it designed to make you forget there's a camera rolling in your own soul field, waiting for you to step in and say, I remember. Because the moment you do, the entire illusion collapses. The props fall, the stage lights flicker, and the matrix starts glitching. That's not fiction. That's spiritual physics. Reality obeys the one who remembers they're dreaming. And once you realize that, you stop arguing with the programs. You stop debating news stories, canceling celebrities, fighting shadows on a digital wall. Because you finally see that the drama wasn't written for you. It was written to keep you from writing your own. That's the secret nobody dares say out loud. The more invested you are in their show, the less you invest in your own. And the show you were meant to create isn't measured in views, likes, or followers. It's measured in breakthroughs, in healed timelines, and reclaimed power. You are the broadcast, not the receiver. But the longer you play viewer, the longer your signal stays dormant. You don't need better content. You need fewer distractions. You don't need more information. You need activation. And that only comes when you unplug from the programs and remember, your soul is not a consumer. It's a creator. So the next time you're tempted to scroll, to binge, to just watch one more thing, pause and ask yourself, whose show am I watching right now? Is it theirs or mine? Because you don't awaken by watching others remember who they are. You awaken by remembering who you are. And that remembering doesn't come from pixels. It comes from presence. It comes from shutting off the noise long enough to hear your own soul whisper. You were never here for entertainment. You were here to create. The Matrix has programs, but so do you, and it's time to run yours. They told you life was a story, but they forgot to mention you're the author. Every belief you've accepted, every fear you've inherited, every label you've worn was written into your consciousness by programs. But authors can erase, creators can rewrite. The problem is, most people are trying to change their life without first changing the script. They're editing the outer world without realizing the source code is internal. And that code? It's not written in logic, it's written in frequency. Attention is the pen. Intention is the ink. And the page is this exact moment you're living in right now. And if this moment is your page, then distraction is the eraser. It doesn't just steal your time, it deletes your script before you even get to write it. That's why the system is designed to flood your senses. So many shows, so many crises, so many people to watch, debate, admire, cancel. It keeps you in a state of reaction, never creation. You think you're informed, but you're actually deformed, reshaped by false frequency, detached from original source code. That's how they win, not by force, but by your consent to consume. But here's the reversal. Consent can be revoked. Today, now, with a single command from soul to self, I unplug. That's all it takes to begin to rewrite. The reason it's so hard to break free isn't because the system is strong. It's because it's familiar. You've been rewarded for staying plugged in, praised for being informed, like for playing along. But spiritual awakening means disappointing the algorithm. It means ghosting the noise. It means going silent long enough that your original signal can come back online. Not the one shaped by likes or shares or viral energy, but the one that existed before your first scroll, before your first screen, before your first memory. That's the real you, the one they don't want you to meet. Because once you do, you don't go back to watching the show. You become it. And when you become the show, the entire game flips. Suddenly, you're no longer asking what's on the screen. You're asking what's in your field. You begin to sense the energy behind every interaction, the manipulation behind every must-see headline, the artificial charge behind every breaking story. You stop playing audience and start playing architect. The screen becomes less interesting because the source stream within you is broadcasting something far more powerful than any content they could produce. You start seeing through the gloss of media spells, the emotional hooks embedded in viral trends, the synthetic morality woven into influencer personas. You stop reacting to drama and start refining your own signal. And that signal? It begins magnetizing your real life back to you. Not the scripted one society offered, but the one that was buried beneath noise. Real relationships, real intuition, real-time alignment with your higher path. This is what they fear, that you'll turn off the program and tune into your own. That you'll stop dancing for algorithms and start syncing with the organic rhythm of your source field. That you'll realize you never needed to follow another life, another voice, another personality, because yours was the one meant to be heard. Not by millions, not for fame, but because your frequency carries codes that only your embodiment can unlock in this world. The real awakening isn't flashy. It's quiet, unmarketed. It happens the moment you unplug, walk outside, feel your breath, and say, I'm still here. It's when you stop asking what's trending and start asking what's true. It's not that. The media is evil. It's that you were never meant to worship it. You were meant to witness it and then choose something higher, something real, something unfiltered by agenda or monetization or metrics. Your soul doesn't trend. It doesn't go viral. It goes deep. It remembers. And it creates. And when your soul starts to create again, the entire matrix begins to lose its grip on your nervous system. You stop craving the next dopamine hit from a reel, a headline, a click. You stop seeking emotional stimulation from external drama and instead feel the raw intensity of your own presence. And that presence, once fully reclaimed, becomes the greatest disruptor of all. Because a being who no longer reacts is a being who can no longer be controlled. You're no longer food for the system. You're no longer a pawn in the algorithm. You're an anomaly, a glitch in the narrative they've spent generations perfecting. You don't need a platform to influence reality. You don't need an audience to validate your existence. when your soul is online. You begin shaping reality with thought, carving new timelines with word, pulling your next evolution out of thin air with nothing but focus and will. This is what it means to truly unplug. Not just stepping away from the screen, but stepping into the field of source where your original blueprint still lives untouched. This is where the Real Show begins. Not on Netflix, not on YouTube, but in your body, in your choices, in your frequency. Because when you rise out of the feedback loop of digital noise, you start hearing something ancient. A voice so old and pure it doesn't need captions or cuts. It says, "You are here now. All of this was waiting for your return." And in that moment, the illusion finally breaks. Not with a bang, not with fireworks, but with a soft inner knowing that says, "I remember who I was before the world told me who to be." And that's when the true entertainment ends, and the divine reality of your own creation begins. And from that point on, nothing hits the same. The things you used to chase feel hollow. The people you used to follow seem scripted. The trends that once gave you identity now feel like costume changes in a play you no longer want to roll in. You don't disconnect out of rebellion. You disconnect because the connection has become sacred. You realize your energy is not free to give anymore. It's a currency of creation, and you begin investing it wisely. You stop showing up to debates designed to drain you. You stop explaining yourself to minds still trapped in reaction. You stop defending your truth to those whose only mission is to distract you from it. This isn't ego. This is alignment. Because once you activate that internal signal, it becomes painfully obvious how much of your life was lived reacting to external noise. How many mornings were hijacked by breaking news that broke nothing? How many nights were sacrificed to shows designed to siphon your vision while numbing your fire? You start to see the subtle sorcery in every scroll, how carefully your soul was being rerouted. And you don't get angry, you get precise. Every move becomes intentional. Every word becomes a spell. Every thought gets filtered through a new law. Does this amplify my signal or suppress it? You become the watcher, not of the screen, but of the code behind it. The spell breaker, the signal restorer, the living transmission. This is the shift that no app, no guru, no platform can give you, because it's not something you download. It's something you remember. And once you remember, you begin to design. Not from ego, not from desire, but from resonance. You don't chase outcomes, you anchor energy. You don't copy content, you transmit codes. You begin living in a way that rewrites reality simply by existing in alignment. And alignment isn't a routine. It's a state of truth where your actions and your essence no longer contradict each other. In this space, time bends. Synchronicities multiply. The outer world stops being something you chase or fear. It becomes something that responds to you. And you no longer need validation because you are the proof. Not a theory, not a belief. A walking demonstration that it's possible to wake up inside the dream and change the dream without fighting it. That's why the distractions became louder, because your signal became real. That's why the noise intensified, because your silence became magnetic. That's why the cravings kicked back, because your soul was close to overriding the entire pattern. The closer you get to your original code, the more the false programs panic. Not because they hate you, but because your remembering renders them useless. And that's the point. When you stop feeding the programs, they collapse. When you stop seeking the external high, the internal truth floods back in. Not all at once, not in one burst, but in layers, unfolding with every conscious breath, every sacred no, every redirected yes. You stop watching the world and start witnessing the field. And once you begin witnessing the field, you're not just free from the matrix, you're writing what comes after it. What comes after the matrix isn't another system. It's not another savior. It's not a new movement, trend, or belief structure. What comes after the matrix is you, fully turned on, fully aware, and finally sovereign. No middleman, no guru, no screen between you and source. You don't escape the matrix by running from it or raging at it. You escape by no longer needing it. It becomes irrelevant, a former stage you've outgrown. Like a child waking from a vivid dream, you stop trying to fix the illusion and instead stand up and walk out of it. And when you do, you realize the world doesn't need more content. It needs more conscious creators, not performers, not influencers, not repeaters of old codes. It needs transmitters, those who remember why they came here in the first place. Not to be liked, not to go viral, but to change the entire frequency of reality by becoming it. This is the next evolution of awakening. It's not about talking more, it's about broadcasting cleaner. It's not about waking people up, it's about living so awake that your very existence breaks spells. Your presence becomes medicine. Your silence becomes lightning. Your field becomes a show. Not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you finally stop hiding. And when that happens, the matrix doesn't collapse. It fades. It fades because it no longer has your attention. And attention is its only fuel. Not because you're trying to prove anything, but because you finally stopped hiding. And when that happens, the matrix doesn't collapse. It fades. It fades because it no longer has your attention. And attention is its only fuel. And when the matrix fades, what's left is silence. Not emptiness, but space. Space to hear yourself again. Space to feel what's true without a narrator assigning meaning to every moment. Space to make decisions without consulting the collective hive mind. At first, that space feels disorienting. Addictive thoughts try to pull you back into stimulation. Old patterns call out like sirens, tempting, familiar, safe, but you sit through it. You breathe through it. You remember why you came here in the first place. Not to consume, but to command. Not to react, but to generate. And as your awareness stabilizes in that silence, something begins to rise from within. Something ancient, original, and indestructible. It's the signal of your true self. The you before the programming. The you that doesn't flinch at silence. The you that doesn't fear boredom. The you that doesn't need to watch anything because it came here to transmit everything. That's when you know you've crossed the threshold, when entertainment no longer entertains you. Because you finally remember, you were never here to watch the show. You were here to wake up the audience. And waking up the audience doesn't mean shouting louder. It means radiating clearer. It means walking through the world like a quiet storm of remembrance, pulling the programmed out of trance just by standing in your truth. You won't always be popular. You won't always be understood, but you'll always be real. And in a world hypnotized by illusion, that's the rarest signal of all. You stop speaking to be heard and start speaking to recalibrate. You stop posting to be seen and start sharing to unlock. You stop asking, will this get views? And start asking, does this carry frequency? Because now you know, every word, every movement, every broadcast either deepens the illusion or breaks it. And you didn't come here to deepen it. You came to break it. And when you break the illusion, even quietly, you become dangerous to the system. Not because you're violent, but because you're awake. Because nothing terrifies the matrix more than a being who no longer responds to its rewards or fears its punishments. You become immune to the frequency traps, immune to the panic spells, immune to the need for external validation. Your energy no longer leaks, it builds. And as it builds, it magnetizes everything that resonates with your true frequency. People, places, paths, they all begin to rearrange themselves to match the new code you're holding. Not because you forced it, but because you stopped chasing noise and started living signal. That's the power of presence. It doesn't demand attention. It rewrites reality just by existing. And the deeper you settle into that presence, the more you begin to understand why this world was built the way it was. The overstimulation wasn't accidental. The endless scroll wasn't a glitch. The confusion was the code by design. It had to be, because only the ones who could feel truth through the noise would break free. Only the ones who could recognize soul beneath spectacle would remember. This place wasn't built to trap the weak. It was built to test the strong, not in force, but in focus. Could you hold your signal when everything around you begged for your distraction? Could you remember who you are without anyone reminding you? Could you tune into your soul without a broadcast telling you where to look? That's the real game. And if you're hearing this now, it means you're one of the few who made it this far. Don't underestimate that. The fact that you still care about truth in a world drowning in entertainment is proof. You didn't come here to be another spectator. You came to disrupt the show. So stop apologizing for being uninterested in what everyone else is watching. Stop questioning your discomfort with the noise. That discomfort is your compass. That boredom with the mainstream is your alignment kicking in. You were never meant to fit into this version of reality. You were meant to update it. And that doesn't happen through outrage or escape. It happens when you embody the new code right where you are. Not louder, not faster, just truer. Every moment you choose presence over programming. You're anchoring a new earth. Every time you opt out of distraction and lean into creation, you collapse an outdated timeline. You become the proof that another path exists, not as a theory, but as a lived frequency. That's how you change the show. Not by becoming a better actor in their script, but by refusing the role altogether and writing your own. Welcome to the Matrix Source Creator, where truth isn't entertainment, it's activation. If you're new here, this channel is a frequency, not just a feed. And if you've been walking this path with me, you already know this isn't about escaping the Matrix. It's about remembering the creator within it. Share this message if it struck your signal. Drop a comment to let the system know you still think for yourself. Hit like, subscribe, and the bell if you're ready to keep building from truth, not trends. Check the description for the new ebooks and paperback books, Soul Frequency Gear, created for real ones waking up inside the illusion and reclaiming their power. And if you feel called to support the mission directly, my PayPal link is there too. Until next time, beautiful souls.